Happy Thursday, Facebook friends. Welcome back to Facebook. I'm Angie Garza, Director of Professional Learning and Educational Services at ROE 47, serving Lee, Ogle, and Whiteside counties. And if you're joining us back here this fine Thursday in the month of February, you'll know that it's time for another edition of Teacher Talk. And as we kick off our Teacher Talk this morning, we are talking about innovation, we are talking about partnerships, and we are talking about excitement around science, teaching, and learning in the state of Illinois. I always start off our Teacher Talks by referencing the fact that ROE 47 serves Lee, Ogle, and Whiteside counties, but today we're going to talk about how our office and our partnerships are serving the larger part of the state of Illinois. And so as we kick our conversations off this morning, I am so happy to welcome to Teacher Talk my friend, colleague, and co-host, Ms. Stacy Dingus. Good morning, Stacy. Not many people know that we have the blessing, the opportunity to have some wonderful partnerships that allow us to extend our reach beyond our Lee, Ogle, Whiteside County service areas. And this conversation about science is exactly one of those opportunities.
Good morning, Angie. Happy to be here. Yes, something that we are very proud of at ROE 47 is we're constantly trying to provide our educators with new ways to teach students, ways to keep students engaged. We are living in a changing world right now, so it only makes sense that when we find something interesting and new and innovative, that we have to figure out a way to share it with the most important stakeholders, right? Our students and our teachers. So excited to have this Teacher Talk today and to spread the word.
Several months ago, I received a phone call from a good friend of mine who is very passionate about science education in the state of Illinois and nationwide. And she said, we have this opportunity to do some statewide work, and would you be interested in having some more conversations about it? And of course, I said yes, because science education is so important to create critical thinkers and students who are curious and asking questions about the world around them. We've been blessed to have a number of different science grants and learning opportunities over the year. And so I was so excited to get this phone call with our very own Kirsten Rademaker. Kirsten, I don't know how to exactly explain all of the things that you do to our viewers, but I've had the pleasure of watching Kirsten teach as a science educator. I've had the pleasure of working with her through ISTA, the Illinois Science Teachers Association, and NSTA, the National Science Teachers Association. And so I think she's wearing all of those hats as we kind of commence this work together. So, Kirsten, good morning. I didn't do your introduction justice. So, before I kick off our first question with you this morning about this science learning opportunity and science in general, can you just take a moment and introduce yourselves to our listening audience?
I'm Kirsten Rademaker. I am an Illinois educator. I spent about 20 years in the classroom before leaving the classroom to do more of this type of work. My specialized area when I first started teaching was special education. So I worked K-12, and then I found myself really gravitating towards high school. So I spent the last several years of my career as the special education teacher, one of several in the science department at Harlem High School. So upon leaving Harlem High School, I started embarking in lots of curriculum and assessment design work and professional learning work. So now I work with teachers all over the country in science implementation. So I'm happy to be here.
And that science implementation is important because for our viewers who are out here and might not know a whole lot about our Illinois science standards, Illinois adopted the next generation science standards pre-COVID. I hate that we define our world in terms of pre-COVID and post-COVID, but there was a lot of energy and enthusiasm and interest in implementation around those standards prior to the disruption from the pandemic. And now, especially if we've been moving forward with some conversations this year, especially, we've made the discovery that perhaps with closing the gaps in reading and math and focus on those two heavily tested areas, maybe science hasn't gotten the attention that it needs and deserves. And we know that to build future scientists and just an educated population, we need to have some science inquiry and learning in there. So I want to take us all the way back to the next generation science standards, NGSS. So as we kind of lay the foundation for our conversations this morning, can you take us back and talk with us a little bit about what those next generation science standards are, how they were developed, and what some of those implications are for teaching and learning here in the state of Illinois, but also across the country?
So first, Illinois adopted the next generation science standards, or the learning standards for science, the Illinois Learning Standards for Science, about 11 years ago. So these are not new standards. So one thing that we found in the area of science, our old standards, the standards from 1997, were more of a checklist of facts and things that we wanted kids to know when they left school. However, in the research, it showed that although students knew a lot of facts and vocabulary, they weren't able to apply those things in a broader sense. So what the next generation science standards did is they took all of the big ideas that we want students to know about, so those disciplinary core ideas, and then they added two dimensions to them. So our standards are three-dimensional. So we have the science and engineering practices, which are the things we want students to do. And then we have the cross-cutting concepts, which are those lenses of science that help us figure out how the world works. And then we still have those disciplinary core ideas, those content areas. So one of the crucial pieces is, in order for students to be able to understand science and sense make around science ideas, they have to be engaged in doing science. So all three of those dimensions are critically important in the next generation science standards, because we want students using those science practices through those lenses of the cross-cutting concepts to really figure out those science ideas. And that looks very different from memorizing, facts and vocabulary that we're just going to, regurgitate on a science test at a given period of time. So it's really about allowing students to build their own knowledge and be able to apply it to their own life and to critically think and problem solve around these things that we see every day.
Kirsten, you just talked a lot about what we are asking students to do, but there's also a learning curve for our teachers, because we know that although we love to have student-led learning, and students engaged, this sounds like it's a transition as well for our teachers. What are some of those struggles or maybe differences that teachers might have when they're transitioning to this new aligned instruction? And then is there a difference between the instruction that the elementary teachers are giving and also, versus the middle school and high school teachers?
So I will say yes, there's a learning curve for the teachers. There's also a learning curve for the students, especially our older students. So when I first embarked on this journey, it was kind of terrible at it. I'm not going to lie, because I was used to lecture and PowerPoint, and my kids were writing down all of the things from the slide notes that I wanted them to learn for their assessment at the end of the unit. But this looks very different. If you look at those science and engineering practices, again, it's all about kids being allowed to do science. And a lot of that has to do with, having students do things together, to talk to each other around these science ideas, to ask questions. And it was a struggle at first, because I didn't know how to facilitate in that in my I didn't know how to facilitate that in my own classroom. And then my kids were not used to talking to each other around science ideas. So we really wanted, to change that whole dynamic. So I just kind of ripped the Band-Aid off and started. And like I said at the beginning, I was kind of terrible at it because I went from, the teller of information or the disseminator of all of the things to really trying to act as a facilitator to get kids thinking about science ideas. How how do we explain this imploding train car? How do we explain what's going on underneath this Band-Aid? So we wanted kids to really think about and make careful observations and ask questions about the world around them, and then use those questions to facilitate them figuring out the big science ideas. And this was a big shift, and the struggle was real. So it took several years for um, not only myself to kind of get comfortable with the idea of allowing kids more freedom in the classroom to figure out those science ideas, but I also had to take the time to teach my students how to talk to each other in a way that, they could build their own science ideas. So that was a challenge in that shift, is really just figuring out what this whole thing looks like.
Those are very definite challenges that I think educators face, administrators face, students face, to some extent, maybe even parents who have experienced a very different way of learning about science. And so the beautiful thing that has happened, it kind of started last year and is continuing on this year with our partnerships, is opportunities for administrators, instructional coaches, curriculum directors, department chairs, educators, whoever is interested in learning more about prioritizing science in their environment has an opportunity to partake and to learn and to network and to grow. And so this partnership, as I mentioned, is between ISTA, Illinois Science Teachers Association, NSTA, National Science Teachers Association, Regional Office of Education 47, and the Illinois State Board of Education, with the support of a wonderful steering committee that is comprised of representatives from ISB, higher ed, our regional office, and classroom educators. So they have really put a lot of thought into what teachers and administrators and all those stakeholder groups need. And I'm proud to say that there is a variety of ways that anybody can really engage and learn more about science and address some of those challenges, from scheduling at the elementary level to really thinking deeply about how to act as a facilitator of learning. And we kicked off those sessions here recently with Dr. Michael Locke, working with our capacity builders. So can you talk to our audience, our viewers, about those professional learning opportunities and what those look like from January to June?
So we are really excited about this partnership because it does put science in the forefront, right? We are able to offer all Illinois educators a variety of professional learning opportunities free of charge. So if you're new to the NGSS, maybe you've never had to teach science before, there is something for you. If you just want to build on what you already know, there's something for you. Um, Again, we have tried to create a menu that will offer something to everyone. So we kicked off this morning with our first capacity builders, and those are really geared towards administrators, curriculum directors, school leaders, teacher leaders. And we were excited to talk this morning about, why it's important that we teach science at all levels, because, you know, it is a challenge in elementary schools, and we know that there's the systemic problem nationwide that science is not taught at elementary schools, or maybe it's taught as a special, or maybe it's only taught at fifth grade because that's when it's tested. But we know that in elementary school is when science is really exciting for kids. Like we don't have to really prompt kids to talk at those elementary levels like we do at the high school levels because kids are excited about learning. Um, so we also offer a series of web seminars. One of them is around assessment, and that is coming up in April. We also have one that's coming up here next week that starts called What is Sense Making? And this is great for anyone K-12. We will have breakout rooms throughout that allows the different grade bands to look at different examples. And if you're new to NGSS, this is a fantastic web seminar series. But even if you've been, engulfed in this work for several years, it's also really good to attend because it might give you a new perspective, or you might pick up a new tip or trick to use in your science classroom. We offer a lot of different resources. There are facilitators from Illinois, but also we bring in a couple facilitators from other places that will share their own experiences and really help supply that immersive web seminar experience for you. And again, if you can't attend live, they are recorded. So feel free to sign up because you will get the recording after the fact. We're also really, really excited to offer Open SciEd training around high school biology, high school chemistry, and middle school. So these trainings, if you go to them independently, are quite expensive, but Illinois is bringing all of these trainings to Illinois educators for free. So we are super excited about the opportunity for those. They are meeting every Tuesday and Thursday in the month of April, and then one day in May, just because we had to carry over just a little bit because of the Easter holiday. But again, really excited to bring us those workshops to Illinois. We do offer what we call the facilitator wraparound. So if you are interested in facilitating Open SciEd and bringing it to your district, if you're a curriculum coordinator or a teacher leader, we have those facilitator wraparounds the Saturday before and the Saturday after. So again, being able to offer these to Illinois educators for free is really exciting. We also have some asynchronous learning opportunities called professional learning units. Each one of these is worth 3 professional learning credits. They can be done at your leisure, anytime from now until probably about the end of summer. There's currently 5 available on the NSTA website for Illinois educators. We hope to put some more in there in the next couple of weeks to give you a better variety. But the professional learning units are just bite-size opportunities for teachers to learn more about very specific topics. So I want to emphasize that there are some in there that can be used not just for science, but for any content area. So go ahead and check those out. Again, those are found on the NSTA website in a special cohort space that was built just for Illinois educators. And a little bit more about that cohort space is we can use that also as a networking opportunity. You can go in there as a teacher and post questions. We know that Illinois has a lot of rural educators. So if you're a singleton in your district and you are looking for resources, you can post some questions in the forum. And that is a place where maybe, several rural teachers can get together and start a chat. But again, just lots of opportunities for us to network as a state and provide learning opportunities, across our really big state of Illinois. So I think I covered everything, but I'm not for sure. I didn't talk about our in-person learning opportunities. We're still working on some dates, but in the spring, we will have some in-person learning opportunities, so more information to come on those.
That is quite the menu of opportunities available to our educators. We know that teachers really are lifelong learners. They're always looking for new ways to teach, getting up to date with the content as it constantly changes, finding different ways to teach the content. So that's quite the list to give to our teachers. Can you tell us a little bit more about these partnerships, like this one with like NSTA, ISTA, RE47, or ISBE? Why are these so important to help strengthen the professional growth that we're giving to our science teachers?
I think these partnerships play a really important role because it allows teachers to network with each other for one thing, but it also allows us to send a consistent message across the state of Illinois that science matters. So when you have the State Board of Education working alongside the state science chapter, which is ISTA, and the National Science Teaching Association, it really sends a message out to teachers that like science is important. We need to make time for science. And we have provided all of this support for you. So again, we're we're allowed now to send out some consistent messaging around what we would like science to look like in our classrooms K-12. And also we're going to provide you opportunities to learn more about what this message looks like and about what science should look like in the K-12 classrooms.
If I'm excited about this and want to learn more to engage in these conversations and stretch myself personally and professionally, how do I do that?
Well, you can sign up to be a member of ISTA. I'm always going to say that because as a former past president, like that is an organization that is near and dear to my heart. You can also become a member of NSTA. I will say, though, you don't have to be a member of either organization to participate in any of these learning opportunities. So we have been sending out email blasts. I know ROE 47 has been sending things out. You can go to ilscience.org, the ISTA webpage, and we have information about all of these opportunities there on our webpage. So those are it. I mean, talk to other people who have been participating in some of these um, opportunities. We did do some of these last year. This is actually the second year of our partnership, and hopefully not the last year, but you never know what's going to happen with those funding allocations. So take advantage of these free opportunities while we have them available.
And Kristen is not exaggerating when she very eloquently explained all of the things that we are trying to do and the variety of platforms and learning styles we're trying to address. So if you are listening right now to this teacher talk and you would like to be plugged into these conversations, please do not hesitate to reach out to Kristen or I, or check out our RE47 website at www.re47.org. Information about all of the professional learning will also be included in the context of this post. Kristen, if I have to sum up our conversations this morning, it would be science matters. Science matters. And as we think about this idea of three-dimensional learning and phenomena and sense making and teachers shifting their role in the classroom, we have to recognize and celebrate that all of this is in an effort to get kids to do science, to think and act and question just like any scientist or engineer would do. So very excited about all that we have to offer from January through June of this fiscal year. And want to say a very special thank you to you, not only for taking time out on Teacher Talk here this morning to have a conversation with us about all of those professional learning opportunities, but also your work with NSTA and ISTA and our steering committee to further this work and these conversations across the state of Illinois and across the United States. Friends, that wraps us up here for this edition of Teacher Talk. As we close out our time together, I'd like to say another special thank you to my friend, colleague, and co-host, Ms. Stacy Dingus, as well as our special guest this morning, Kirsten Rademaker. Kirsten is helping us and deeply entrenched in the work of science professional learning through her work with ISTA and NSTA and on our Illinois Steering Committee for Science Professional Learning. We would also like to thank you, our viewers, for taking time out on your Thursday to join us for this edition of Teacher Talk. We hope that you have a beautiful rest of your Thursday, an even better Friday, a wonderful February-filled weekend, and we will see you right back here next Thursday for another edition of Teacher Talk.